Bo Davis is a defensive line coach at Texas. Texas is not good at football right now. They can't finish games, they can't close the second half to save their lives, and they keep blowing leads. And if you're a winner, you don't like that. It doesn't really sit well, and now they're struggling to try and make a bowl at Texas, which is something that would have been unheard of just a month ago when they were taking Oklahoma down to the wire. Well, things have gone sideways for Texas, okay? Now, that's not breaking news. We've seen that happen. But after this last loss to Iowa State, you probably had it go out of your mind once the broadcast ended. It's 30-7, shame on Texas. They were up at the half. They blew a lead at half again. Same old song and dance. And then you go and you watch other games. But here's the thing. In the real world, if you're on that team, you got to mope around your locker room, and you got to clean things up, and you got to pack your stuff up, and you got to get on the bus, and you got to go to the airport, and you got to travel all night. And so that happened for Texas this weekend. Now, I'm going to play you in just a second some audio. And Director Colin and producer Jesse have sweat stains under both armpits of their shirts right now because they had to feverishly work all afternoon to edit this video. And the thing's only 45 seconds. So you ask, what are they? I mean, are they talentless? Do they not know what they're doing? Why would it take so much effort and exertion of energy to edit a video? Some of you have seen the video, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those of you who haven't, and if you're listening on podcast, you won't lose an ounce of the effect here because it's a video shot on a bus at night by someone who is softer than Charmin, who shot this video, by the way. Pathetic. That's its own story that we'll talk about in a second. But I'm going to play for you video, and I want you to remember the context. Texas has just been beaten soundly at Iowa State. They are 4-5 at the time of this recording. They're probably headed back to the airport, and some folks are taking it better than others. This is Texas defensive line coach Bo Davis. Let's roll the tape. Earmuffs, kids.
It's real. Some of you need to get in the transfer portal. You want to go? Get in. This ain't a game to me. And if you think it's a game, get the off of this bus. I got my ass kicked. And you want to laugh? It's real. You think it's a joke? And some of you do transfer out of this. Because I'm tired of this. This real. And we want to laugh and joke. That.
Not a good trip back to Austin the other night for some Texas players. Some took it harder than others. Some didn't care enough to where they actually recorded a coach, telling a lot of folks on that bus and the surrounding buses what needed to be said. Takeaway from this, a lot of you asked what I thought about it. Here's what I think. College football, or you know what, let me just start over. Football in general is a violent sport. It is hard to play. It is a sport that is not made for everyone. Everyone can watch it. Not everyone can play it. It takes a hard mentality, and physically, it's just hard. And even though it's been sanitized for commercial use, and it gets really dressed up before it gets put out there for public consumption, the sausage still has to be made. And behind the scenes, that kind of stuff occasionally leaks out into the public. Occasionally, the public gets the curtain peeled and they get to see back there. And I always laugh because when these sorts of things occasionally leak out, you know, the Orgeron video a couple of years ago, this video of Bo Davis, you get one of two reactions. There is no in between. You either get shock or you get shrug. The shocked people are the people who probably didn't grow up in locker rooms, they probably didn't play sports, and they have no idea that this world exists. They just see the post-game interview where everyone's lovey-dovey and everyone's speaking the talking points that have been pumped into their head. They don't understand that's the real world, that's the subculture, that's locker room that you're not supposed to hear but you do hear. The other side shrugs because they did grow up in locker rooms, and they are competitors that are around that kind of environment a lot, and they look at that and they listen to that and they say, is that it? I thought this was a big deal. I was told about this video. All I hear is what I used to hear on a random Wednesday in high school. So that was Bo Davis, and that was his talk. Bo Davis came from Alabama. Bo Davis is not used to losing. Bo Davis is a winner. Here's the thing about winners. They can sniff out a loser really quick. And here's the bad news. Texas has got some losers in their locker room. I didn't say it's a locker room full of losers. I said Texas has got some losers in their locker room, and winners sniff them out. And they got too many of them there right now. They've got that mentality that we've talked a lot about on this show. The winner out there and the winning teams out there, if you find a winning organization, they got a bunch of what can I do for the team mentality in the locker room. At Texas, they got a whole lot of what can Texas do for me in their locker room. And it's painfully obvious, and that coaching staff saw it when they walked in. The good news is I believe that collection of coaches can get it right. I do believe that. That's the good news. There is another side of that coin. The bad news is I don't think they can get it right with the folks in their locker room currently. And I think they know that. And when you got a coach screaming, some of y'all need to get in the transfer portal, in a lot more colorful language than that, that's not spontaneous. That's not off the cuff. That's the kind of stuff they've been saying in their meeting room amongst themselves for probably every day since they got there and did a healthy observation of the organization. Here's the core issue, and this is going to be an issue for a while for Sark. It's a process, but at Texas and places like Texas, it's a process that a lot of people are not going to have time for because they've been misled. They've been misled, quite frankly, by recruiting rankings and a misinterpretation of what those recruiting rankings mean. They think the pieces are there. That's why they don't have patience, because they got told by their favorite preview magazine or they got told by the 24/7 Sports Team Talent Composite that the talent's there. And preview magazine culture told them the expectation's there, and he's got the pieces. He being Steve Sarkisian, he's got the pieces to work with, and therefore it shouldn't take long, guys. Well, talent is not the only name of the game here. You got to have it. Talent is a prerequisite, but there's some other T's. There's toughness. They don't have it at Texas. There's tenacity. They don't have it at Texas. Then there's some other things like attention to detail, just the entire mental aspect of the game. They don't have it. You got some folks who focus on ball. You got some folks who focus on brand. And there are too many brand types at Texas, not enough ball types. And you've got to overturn that locker room. Now, you can start to do it by the kids you bring in via recruiting. And I'm sure that they're trying to do that, working 25 hours a day in order to try and do that. You can also not so subtly force some kids out and try and trim the fat via the transfer portal. But the problem is that takes time. You cannot do that week to week, month to month. That's a year to year thing. And right now they are where they are. And Bo Davis is looking around. And like I said, he came from working for Nick Saban. He came from a place at Alabama, and Sark, for that matter, has been at a place for a couple of years at Alabama where if you lose a game, scratch that. If you just fail to cover and you win a game, the entire state's miserable the following week. And I can guarantee you the football complex feels 10 times worse, and it's like an existential crisis that you're not going to go home and sleep until we get this thing fixed because of. And at Texas, you just got loss after loss after loss piling up, and you got some folks in the locker room okay with it. To put a finer point on it, I'm not saying everyone's smiling. I'm saying the moment that you accept anything less than winning, you are a loser. By very definition, you're a loser. You can't make it at this level, and you can't make it at a place like Texas under an administration like this one. And so that's standard. That's one guy that's used to a standard that's a lot higher than the one that most people think they need to meet at Texas. Bo Davis, love him. Loved him at Alabama. And Bo Davis is a guy who had the game taken away from him for a little while through things that were his own doing. To be perfectly clear, I'm not painting Bo Davis as a victim. What I am painting him as is Pate State material. Bo Davis can come coach for Pate State anytime. The Freights could use a guy like Bo Davis. So could Texas. Texas needs a whole lot more of that. And to anyone who knows anything about who recorded that video, you can reach out to me anonymously. I would love to know. I know some people out there think the person who recorded that is no longer in the house anymore to begin with. I don't know that. I have no clue. I have not seen the forensics on that. But I sure would love to know. So if you know, I'll keep it between us. The DMs are open on Twitter, @LateKickJosh. I'd love to hear what you have to say on that. So go Bo Davis. That's what I'm saying. We stand with Bo on this program.